Crank up the volume and get ready for real-world bird hunting by listening to the Wingmen podcast by Eastman's. Now your host, Todd Helms.
Well, hey guys, welcome to another episode of the Wingmen podcast. And my guest today is Ryan off the grid. Ryan, what's your full name, man? Because that's all I think most people probably know you by.
It's Ryan Bodwin.
Oh, cool.
Which is a Belgian surname.
Oh, okay. You got it. Yeah, I know a couple other people with a similar last name, and I always wondered how you pronounce that.
Mm-hmm.
That's cool.
But a lot of people call me Buddha. You may see me referred to as that because when I got to boot camp in the year 2000, I stood on the yellow footprints at MCRD San Diego, and one of my drill instructors walked up and asked me how I pronounce my last name, and I said, Bodwin, sir. And he's like, Buddha. And I said, Bodwin, sir. And he said, Buddha. I said, Buddha, sir. And he goes, well, you ain't that dumb, are you? It stuck pretty hard. So,
well, and so for the folks that don't know, you are a Marine combat veteran.
Yes.
And thank you for your service.
Thank
very
you
much. And tell us about yourself, man. Give us a little bit of background for the folks that might not be familiar with your platform and what you do.
So I grew up in a tourist town in a county called Door County, which is the peninsula in Wisconsin that sticks out into the Bay of Green Bay.
Go Packers.
Yeah, we're just north of Lambeau there. Pretty typical middle class upbringing, but played sports. I really didn't hunt that much because my family didn't hunt. But my father was very supportive of it. I bought my first shotgun at 13 years old, and I think I bought my first rifle at 15. And like we'd go out there, he'd come with me, and we'd go fail together, which is I think has bred success later in life. Is learning, seeing what happens, and learning the animals through failing.
Right.
I'd hunt with friends. You get a couple of 16-year-old boys together and go roam through a field and shoot every rabbit, squirrel, and pheasant that you see. But not that that's not hunting. It wasn't like on a level that I'm at now. It was more of a just going out with the boys. But that's very formative to kind of what I do now, taking people and the camaraderie of hunting. Joined the Marine Corps in November of '99, and went to boot camp in 2000. Spent just shy of 7 years in the Marine Corps, with one deployment to Iraq in 2004 and 2005, which was kind of probably the worst part of the war, bloody wise. We had the Second Battle of Fallujah, the U.S. election, George Bush's second election, the Iraqi election, and then you throw Ramadan in the mix. It got pretty hot. But came home from that, and that's kind of where my story starts. I went to college. I did not have a sense of direction. I was basically in college I discovered rugby, and I was basically going to class to stay eligible. Played that for a few years, ended up getting a history degree and a teaching certificate. And I taught in the hood in Milwaukee for a year, which I actually enjoyed. The kids are awesome. The administration and the political machine behind it is not. But I enjoyed my time there, and then I got an opportunity to take a job with a federal agency. None of the sexy three-letter agencies, but it was a good job, paying wise, but it was an office job, and that's where I really started struggling. Realized I had issues PTSD wise, and once you're in a 9-to-5 work setting, and I'm showing up to work, but I'm not there mentally.
Yeah.
In 2011, still working for the same government job, I lost my parents 2 months apart to cancer. My mom died in June of 2011. My dad died August, took 2 months to the day. My mom had cancer before, beat it a couple times. My dad was out of nowhere, and that's like I spiraled out of control, abusing alcohol, was starting to not perform at my job, and the changing point in my life is I was invited on a veterans duck hunt A friend of mine that I had served with was still on active duty, and he's kind of in charge of events with guys when they get out, or guys that are on temporary medical. They send them home. I'm talking guys that are real jacked up physically or mentally, but he would incorporate guys that were veteran status with some of these events. And he said, I know you hunt, there's this duck hunt going on, you're going, I know what's going on in your life.
Yeah,
because honestly I probably would have just sat in my office in my house and drank that weekend instead of going to this event. And I showed up there not having any idea of what it was going to be. Like I had shot a few ducks. I was not a duck hunter. And Ryan Voy, the guy who started the event, this was the second year. I showed up at the boat launch, and he's like, "Hey, you're in my boat." And we went out, and I think we shot one duck. It didn't matter. It propelled me into being a duck hunter, and it propelled me into like knowing that being outdoors, being with other people outdoors was like the thing that was going to help me. And that following spring, I bought a camera, and it wasn't anything special. It was like a point and shoot. I mean, it was pretty low grade. And I was so into ducks. Like when I went to this event, I thought everything was a mallard, like, okay, that's
sure.
duck. And I knew there was like wood ducks, but like, I had no idea bluebills, old squaw. I had no clue that the diversity of the species. But that became an interest of mine really quickly. And I started piling into the marshes with my waders on, with decoys, and taking pictures of ducks, and learning the different species and observing them, and started posting those on social media. And like the feedback I was getting, people were like, you need to like consider looking into doing this. They say you can't teach the eye.
Right.
Like I'll be walking around taking pictures, and people walk up and they'll see my big telephoto lens. They're like, I wish I had your camera so I could take good pictures. And I'm like, yeah, I just hit click and it does all the work for me.
Yeah, it's automatic, right? Oh, good grief.
But the eye, like how to, the composition of a picture, framing a picture, and just knowing where to be, what to do from a wildlife perspective. Like I just dove in, and like very shortly after I quit. I walked into work, and I was gone. And my baby brother called me, and he's like, "You're throwing away like $120,000 a year job." And I was like, "Yeah, because the next time I get on that elevator, I might blow my head off." Like that's how bad that job was. Work environment for me. I didn't belong in a cubicle. I was just kind of going through the motions. And I bought better equipment and went on the road and started doing just basically wildlife photography, or if I'm driving someplace cool, I'll stop at zoos and practice on zoo animals. And a acquaintance of mine on social media, I'd never really met him. He was just a duck hunter. I'm a duck hunter. We added each other. I mean, that's kind of how I was starting to build a small network. He hit me up and he's like, "Hey, like your photos are awesome. I know you're a killer. Like I know you hunt and can get it done. I need a cameraman to film. Do you know how to do that?" And I was like, no clue, but my equipment does it.
Yeah.
Like, let's go. He's like, good, because you're filming for Pursuit Channel now. And I was like, okay.
Deep into the pool, splash.
Right. I mean, just jump right in. And I did that for, I think we did 3 seasons. The first season, when I was filming, the guys that I was filming for did a really nice job of, once we got what we needed, I got to hunt. And, especially if you're down in Texas, there's exotics running around, or we're turkey hunting. Once we get what we need from a content perspective, they'd let me go and they'd run the camera. And like, they're like, "Who's this bearded, tatted, muscly guy?" And they wanted me on camera. So I kind of filled 2 roles there, either filming and editing, or being in front of the camera. And that really kind of took my social media through the roof, and got it to the point where once I was no longer interested in dealing with the ins and outs of the network and kind of had my own flavor on things. Didn't have to answer to a producer. Went off on my own. Started a YouTube and came full circle and started working with outfitters that I worked with in the past, putting on vet hunts. And then it's to the point now where I have to say no to things. My schedule's insane, but we're putting on probably, whether I attend and film it or not, which most of them I try to do, we'll probably put on 30 events a year.
Wow, dude, that is phenomenal. Yeah, you made a post a week or two ago, turkey season winding down, and you were reflecting on your turkey season. And that was one of the things you talked about was, at first you thought maybe, it wasn't a real successful season. And then you got looking back at the hunts that you did, the vets that you took, the people that you took, and the things that happened. And you were like, this was a phenomenally successful season. And that speaks exactly to what you're just talking about there.
Well, I mean, it was the last day of the season. I was coming out of the woods. We kind of had a hiccup the last week. My son got sick. My wife was flying to Georgia with the kids to go see her sister. And, I had to take on dad and husband role and didn't get to go. Then I got sick. And so like for the last 4 days, and the birds were hot here. Like the last week was unreal. I felt like they were 2 weeks behind. I was super excited for the last week because not many people are out there. I was seeing, Tom's running around chasing Jakes, and like the pecking order that should have been established 3 weeks prior was hot and heavy. So I was
still getting after it.
It's gonna happen. I had a tag in 2 different zones. I had a guy that was supposed to come with me, and then just life happens, and I got out the last day, and even though I was sick, I had watched this bird, and I'm telling you, he had 1.5 inch spurs. Like he was this old dog. I watched him breed 3 hens that week, and like he was oblivious to everything. Like he knew what was up, and he traveled the same path every day. He'd go get his hen, he'd come back to this gap in the fence line. I was like, all right, I'll just sit there. Because he wasn't going to respond to calls or decoys or anything. I'm just going to sit and kind of deer hunt him. And of course, the one day I get to hunt, he does the complete opposite. And I'm kind of dejected, and I'm walking out of the woods as the sun's going down. I'm just like, wow, this season was terrible because I only punched a couple tags. But then, like you said, I was sitting back, and all the people I got to take, I'm way more excited if I can take someone, especially if they're a first-time hunter or a first-time turkey hunter. And like all the work that you do, put it this way, you're way less lazy if somebody's depending on you, and then if it's your tag, it might be like 9 o'clock, birds aren't working. You're like, yeah, I'm gonna go get breakfast.
Yeah, exactly. Oh, you're spot on with that, man. And we don't have the opportunity, haven't had the opportunity to take a lot of vets or do anything like that. We take a lot of kids, as many kids as we can, and do some youth stuff. But you're so right. When you've got somebody else with you that you're trying to get on animals, oh my gosh, it's like first of all, I think the pressure gets ratcheted up. I know I put myself under a ton of pressure, and my expectations for the way I want things to go get through the roof. But yeah, I work way harder when it's somebody else's tag to film up. There's times hunting with my wife, she's like, would you chill out and just enjoy this? And I'm like, what do you mean? I am. It's just funny how that works.
Getting to put all your skills together that you've built and learned over the years, and do that for someone else and get them hooked, and they're asking questions, and like you forget what half the time. Like what is second nature to you? They have no clue. Like it took a guy that actually the entire time was in the Marine Corps in the same platoon, and he had gone on a turkey hunt in Tennessee when he lived down there, and he moved back up here. I told him, draw a tag, we'll take you. And it was like the perfect morning. And me and another guy who's a phenomenal turkey hunter are with him. And I'm like, you got the meeting of the minds right here. We should be able to make this happen. And 2 toms and 2 hens walked out, and they fiddled around in the field. Then they lost their hens. So I was like, oh, this is game on. Like both me and the other guy are like, all right, this is happening. And they literally walked like 80 yards around us and like didn't pay attention to anything. Like we weren't even there. And the guy goes, what happened? And I said, turkey's doing turkey things, man. If you can figure it out, let me know.
That is so true. Oh my gosh.
There's
About the time you think you get it dialed, man, they do something completely and just throw your plans into the wind. And oh my gosh, it had the same thing happen this year on the turkey one. Well, the only turkey hunt I ended up going on because of weather, and same thing. Like you said, life happened and birds were weird, man. It was like talking to the guys that run this ranch up in Montana, and they're like, oh, we got tons of birds. It's going to be awesome. You guys are going to have a great time. And we got there and the birds had dispersed. We saw 2 gobblers over in like a 4-day period, and they would not respond to calling. I had one bird come and he hung up at about 70, 80 yards and was looking things over and was like, no, I'm not going to come in any closer. And and we ended up punching a couple tags, but it was like we had to get totally out of the book to get it done. And I'm not talking about like shooting them out of a truck window or nothing like that, but we stalked our birds. We'd find them, locate them at distance, get in close, call, they'd gobble, but they're not going to come, and just use the terrain features and got looped in and pop up, boom. It was like, oh, so hard, but it worked. We brought home birds.
I mean, you'll see people on, Facebook turkey hunting pages, the purists that like, oh, if you can't call them into 20 yards, like, stop it. Like ditch slipping a bird where you got to, get in the mud and use, like the wind one day saved me. It was like 35-mile-per-hour gusts, and it screwed me the 2 days prior. But the grass was whipping so hard in front of me, they couldn't see me move. And I was like, I think I could make a play on this bird. And I had to crawl through a muddy stream, to get it done. So tell me I'm not, like, that's cheating. It was awesome. Like, it was
exactly.
To put the sneak on them and got them. And then, I think it was an 8-minute hunt, but it was like, it felt like an hour.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, you just never know how it's going to pan out, and I think we get stuck in a rut when it comes to turkey hunting, especially where it's like, put the decoys out, set up, call, it's going to be just like this. And it doesn't always happen that way. Yeah, sure. Sometimes it happens that way, but I've been trying for 4 or 5 years to get a bird to commit to a Jake decoy and just beat the tar out of it on camera. And I haven't had it happen. I had one bird come in and he committed, but he was really passive, kind of strutting around. He wasn't real aggressive. And it's weird too, because our Miriam's birds out west are just weird like that. They're, and now that season dates everybody's back, their season dates off, like you said, that pecking order has been established, it seems like, and they're all about love that time of year. Man, they do some wild things though. Just crazy.
Well, you're talking about, birds beating on a decoy. The last bird we shot this year was a veteran buddy of mine from Colorado. He flew in, and our seasons go, we have 6 seasons. They go Wednesday morning to the following Tuesday evening, then a new tag starts. Okay. And I think we were done at Wednesday at like 7. But it was the same field I was talking about where, like, the toms were chasing Jakes around, and this was in the far corner. So I snuck out and put a full strut tom on. I was like, let's mess with these birds. And they came in like Flight of the Valkyries, like just puffed out on a dead sprint. And like he killed the bird, but like if he would have waited 5 minutes, we would have just an absolute show. And he was like, nope, get it done. And I was like, yeah, that thing was about to absolutely destroy my decoy.
It's funny too, man. I've got, I grew up not far from where you are. I grew up in the Upper Peninsula of Michigan.
The UP,
yeah, you betcha. And so I know where I'm very familiar with your part of the country, and my brother lives in Northeast Iowa, and so those basically, I guess what I'm driving at is all my experience before I moved to Wyoming 15 years ago was eastern birds, and those eastern birds are way more aggressive than our little Miriam's birds out here. It is wild, man. What you're talking about having a bird just come in and just smoke stuff. I don't think my brother ever hunts without a full strut decoy, ever.
Yeah.
And he's just like, yeah, if they won't come to it, screw them. It's
wants
not
to
a bird
see
I
that-
want.
that
I want the
action.
alpha. I want the alpha, and it's like, okay, if I did that out here, I'd never shoot a bird.
Mhm.
They're like, yeah, no, I'm not, I don't want to fight.
Well, I hunted Miriam's in Panhandle of Nebraska one year, and we went out there and we cleaned houses. Me and another guy from Wisconsin. He's a pretty darn good turkey hunter. But it's like you said, it was I think we used like 10 different styles to get our birds. Like we had to keep getting creative to make it happen. And that area, there's so many hunters on the public. We'd actually use hunters. If we knew there was a bird close to the road, but he was just kind of hanging, we'd loop around and kind of figure out where he probably is going to go. And sure enough, another truck would pull up and this idiot would get out glass. And now the bird's like walking right to us. And it was like, and we'd shoot it and like stand up and wave to him like, thanks, buddy.
We talk about doing that with big game stuff all the time, where you use other hunters to your advantage. Whether it's in a situation like that where you post up on a likely escape route, or you can look at Onyx and go, oh, there's an area over here that was really remote, really kind of removed. There's a bunch of hunting pressure here. I bet animals have moved into there. We do that all the time, but I don't think enough guys realize how well it works with turkeys.
Mm-hmm.
I really don't, but it does. If you can use those tools to your advantage, I guess.
Well, that same hunt, the parking lot of the hotel was very similar to like when you pull into like Gillette during antelope season. There's 19 different state license plates.
Yeah.
Everybody that's staying there is hunting. And we drove through the night and we pulled into a spot. My buddy had hunted there before. So he goes, we're going in blind, but I had hunted here. I know there was birds here a few years ago. And we pulled in and rolled the window down and listened. There's a gobble, and went after him. And that was my fourth bird for the slam. So like that was, he was so excited about that. We got the bird down. And then he did have some private land. So we shot his bird over there. So we came back with 2 birds to the parking lot. And all these guys are sitting in the parking lot drinking beer. There's guys from Arkansas. There's guys from Missouri. There's guys from everywhere. And we're the only people in the entire hotel that shot birds. So these guys come over, and he ended up actually being a warden from Arkansas. Cool guy. But he's looking at us. He's like, how does every person here not have a bird? And you two got 2. And my buddy doesn't even skip a beat. His dog was laying up on the box. And it's black lab. And he goes, see old Zeke up there? And he goes, yeah. And he goes, we just pull up. If we hear a gobble, we send him in. He comes back with a bird. We're bullshitting, and everybody's laughing. And then the next day we come back with 3 birds, and I think one other party shot 1. And the dude walks up and he looks at the birds. He looks at my buddy. He's like, "How much for that dog?"
How much for that dog? Oh my gosh. Yeah, I've always said though, dudes from the Midwest are killers, man. You have to be to get it done consistently with that much hunting pressure where we grew up. Oh my gosh.
You go to Wyoming, you know how it is. You go to Wyoming for antelope or mule deer season, 90% of the license plates are from Wisconsin.
It's either Wisconsin, Michigan, Minnesota, or Pennsylvania. That's like all we see out here all the time. But yeah, the hunting culture in the upper Midwest, like say even New York, Pennsylvania, Michigan, Wisconsin, Minnesota, the hunting culture in those states is phenomenal. Like opening day of duck season is a holiday. Opening day of firearm deer season in Michigan was always November 15th. And it was like, nothing was open. We didn't go to school. Schools were closed. Businesses were closed. Everybody was either in the woods or in the UP. Everybody was at deer camp.
About 7 minutes prior to actual shooting time, it sounds like Mogadishu. As soon as that first shot cracks off, you're like, all right,
it's go time. It's go time. Oh my gosh. Yeah, it's funny because obviously being connected being an offshoot of Eastman's, big game is a massive focus of what we do.
Right.
And we talk about, avoiding hunting pressure and getting to trailheads, and trailheads being, 10, 15 vehicles. What are you going to do? Have your plan B, And I just laugh because I'm like, you guys have no idea what real hunting pressure is. Go hunt state land on opening day of firearm deer season in Wisconsin or in Michigan. That's hunting pressure.
Or you'll be all, you got in, you did your homework, you're way back in there, and then like 20 minutes after shooting time, some jackwagon just walks right underneath the stand. You're like, bro, why'd you even come out this morning?
Full pumpkin suit, And I obviously, we're laughing about this because it's all you can do. But because we can all be either on the same team and give each other some crap, or we can get serious issues occur. But I'm with you, man. I don't think there was an opening day, especially in the lower peninsula, because we hunted down there quite a bit, had a family farm. That was insane. In the UP, it was pretty remote, pretty wild country. And you'd hear 10 shots on opening day, maybe. Downstate, oh my gosh, you'd hear 500 shots by lunch,
Or the sun comes up and there's a guy 3 trees away from you that you didn't even see.
It's like, morning.
Opening day at duck is even worse, though. I think I don't hunt big water. Duck opener used to be like Christmas to me. Like it was my favorite day of the year. Me and my brother would go every year, and it's just gotten so crazy that I'll go find a pothole, shoot my 3 wood ducks, and not have to deal with. Guys that are. I've heard stories like a dude rolled up one time. These guys are on a cattail island that's not big enough for 2 groups.
Yeah.
And dude rolled up like 5 minutes before shooting time in a kayak with 2 German short hairs in it and no decoys, and like plopped down next to these guys. And they're like, "Oh, it's gonna get cozy today, boys." But no, it's not. You're gonna get off this island. He was gonna hunt over their decoys.
Oh my gosh, I can't even imagine.
Oh, there's fist fights at the launch sometimes.
Oh yeah, no, dude, I remember, hunting like Little Bay to Knock up in Escanaba and Gladstone. We used to hunt that on the regular, and it was exactly what you're talking about. You get to the state dock in Gladstone to go hunt, and you better be there at 2 a.m. to go get your spot. I remember sleeping in the duck boat on Saginaw Bay, to get a spot. And I'm so thankful that it's not like that everywhere. But the reality is, Ryan, that public land, especially waterfowl, that's the reality for a lot of guys. That's all they have. I think you and I were lucky that we had other, like you said, a pothole or a beaver pond or something. I did the same thing, man. I'd go find a little beaver pond with, 100 wood ducks on it or 50 wood ducks on it, and go shoot like you said, go shoot my 3 wood ducks, maybe hang out until 9, see if a black duck came floating through or the odd mallard, and bag it and go get breakfast. And that turned in, that's what opening day turned into for me, because I had experiences like that Cattail Island thing where it's like, no, this isn't how this game's played. And I don't know about you, but there was quite a few times where you'd get guys that you could see they're trolling around, they're looking for a spot. It's like, dude, just come on, get in here. Get in here and hunt with us. Because otherwise you're just competing for the same birds and nobody wins then, And I've met some really good dudes that way. There was a spot up in I'm not going to hotspot it. There was a place I hunted a lot up in the UP. It was pretty remote, not real well known, but there was a local guys, and it seemed like every time I'd show up there, it was the same 1 or 2 dudes, and everybody knew where the hot spot was, where the birds wanted to be. And I don't know how many, after the first time, I think we hunted together. Like it was almost like, "Hey, morning, Bill, let's go set up over here. You want to use your stuff or mine?"
Instead of just pushing the birds around, let's let them work one spot. And do we shoot a limit? Who knows? but
Right.
we're all shooting up together and having fun. And you meet cool people doing it.
Yes, exactly. And I think that's my point with that is I met some really cool dudes, man, and got to know some people that I wouldn't have otherwise gotten to know.
100%.
Yeah, and it's just funny. I think all of the outdoors is that way too. It's when we talk about it, duck hunting or deer hunting, and we used to call it. We got my brother and I called it deer fighting season in Michigan. It's just that's all it was. Neighbors that got along famously all year for 2 weeks of the year were rivals. You know, and it's
they got the surveyor out marking the property line the day before.
It's like, what's with all this orange flagging tape? I haven't seen this before. Yeah. Oh, it's crazy.
I mean,
but
duck hunting got real bad for a while. I mean, the social media kind of influenced that, but I mean, the saying I kept hearing was nobody hates a duck hunter more than another duck hunter. I mean, there was a lot of infighting and just smack talking, but like out of bounds stuff. If I used to post my videos on a group hunting page,
right?
And I'm just like, I don't. If people that are going to find my content will find it because that's what they're looking for. What I'm, what the message I'm putting out.
Right.
I don't need some dude that just wants to sit there and tear everybody down. I don't have time for it.
No, and it does happen a lot. Stuff that, and you know what it's like. Ducks are on camera. You either got like stuff that's normal, like birds over the decoys, maybe making a swing, doing whatever. They're well within ethical shooting distance. On camera, they look like they're 150 yards away.
Right.
Ducks are terrible. Yeah, exactly. Sky bustles, why don't you let them work? And I'm like, okay, so the ones that look really close on camera are like 5 yards. I mean, those birds are right in your grill. It's like you got to let them get out there a little bit if you want to take them home and eat them. But oh my gosh, yeah, the world of trolls. It's like we can be our own worst enemies, man. That's for sure. We can be awfully.
I think that tide's turning a little bit. I mean, you see more and more people, Instagram especially, like kind of embracing the nose to tail eating or hunter activism, conservation, and kind of like getting out of the fray of the BS, really.
Right.
One of my real good buddies, he ran a podcast called Hunt Domain. He's a Marine vet, and he was super active, in like calling out some of the bad apples. And he had a daughter recently, and like he's like, I'm wrapping up the podcast. I'm done with it. I'm done with the BS. And he called me 2 weeks ago, and he's like, bro, I killed a turkey last week, and I didn't even take a picture. And I'm like, I get it, I have to, produce content to keep the following going, and that opens up opportunities. But there's days when I'm just like, man, I just want to just go do it,
Yeah. Yep. No, when you're doing it, when it's tied to your livelihood, it's a little different, or you have to produce that content. You have to swim in that. And I agree with you 100% on the hunter activism thing. And you have played a role in that, kind of from the get-go. You've always been that rah-rah guy out there. And that's one of the things that turned me on to your social media stuff very early on, was like, man, who is this? Like you said, who's this bearded, tatted up Viking looking dude? Who is this guy? And I'm looking at him like, man, I like his message. I like that pro hunting, like you said, hunting activism. I like that term. And you really embrace that and run with it.
Well, it goes back to bear hunting. And, I have, the only way I haven't taken a bear is spot and stalk. And that is on my list out west to do that. I've shot him over bait. I've shot him.
I have a bear story that happened last night that I'll share with you when you're done with your point.
I've hunted with hounds a lot. I got into the houndsman community before actually participating in it. It didn't interest me.
Right.
I was never the guy that's like, oh, that's cheating. And then I looked into it and was like, this is a 20,000-year-old tradition. But like, this is how we got our start. And not just how amazing the hounds are at what they do, like the guys that are managing this and get out there and train them, like the amount of work that goes in. But you had bait hunters ragging on hound hunters, and I was like, look at Colorado. First they took hounds, and then they took bait. If we don't, you do not have to participate in a legal means of pursuit to support it.
100%.
And if we don't, it's the join or die snake that I have, that from the Ben Franklin political cartoon. If we don't join together, we die alone. But I mean, I started seeing pages like Robbie from Blood Origins and I mean, Sportsman's All. I mean, there's so many pages out there that are out there taking the lead. American Bear Foundation. And I like that. They used to be Western Bear. They just made it American Bear just recently. And then out of nowhere, this howl.org out of California, they came out, and I talked to the dude that started it. We had a phone call conversation. I'm like, how do I help? Because like, you guys are organized. Like I don't even know what day it is, and you guys are just like, everything is one click, and they're crushing it. And we need to. The left does not care how you kill a bear. The anti crazies don't care how you kill a bear. They care that you are killing a bear, and they want to take everything, and they're relentless. And if we don't keep the foot on the gas pedal, I mean, there's small victories here and there, but we need to keep doing it.
I completely agree with you. That growing up, I don't know how old you are, but I would imagine we're pretty similar in age. Growing up, I remember, we need to win these people over. We need to have our message prepared, so when you run into somebody at a whatever, you can give them these facts, and the facts will sway them. We were assuming that people were logical, and I think that's changed, man. I'm at the point where I'm like, no, we need to fight fire with fire. They're not going to play fair. I'm not saying we need to get dirty, but get organized, join up, and band together as a group, because they don't care how you shoot a bear. They just care that you killed a bear. Well, ducks aren't that far removed from that. Turkeys aren't that far removed from that. And they're going to keep chipping away and taking things. You hit the nail on the head with Colorado. Washington State lost their spring bear season. California. Why? Because we could go down the list, and it's just a little bit here, a little bit there, a little bit here, and a little bit there. Pretty soon you have no hunting privileges remaining, and they've been taken from you. And
they are masters of death by paper cut.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Yeah, I think the time is, and I don't know, man, I get fired up about this, but the days, and I certainly think that we need to, as hunters, we're responsible for our image. We're responsible for what we portray, but I'm not pandering to the left anymore on this. It's like, no, you can either accept me for what I am and what I do, because you're forcing me to accept you, or you can forget about it.
Being an unapologetic hunter.
Absolutely.
You were talking about, back in the day, it was engaging people. The only time I'm willing to do that is if somebody comes on my page and asks a polite question.
Yes.
Like, I've had people tell me they're going to kill my kids, and I was like, bring it, because you want to see the hell's going on.
Yeah, exactly.
If you're coming with that, if you're leading with that, or you're leading with insults, I have no time for you. But if it's somebody just asking a question, that's somebody that is willing to be pragmatic and just wants information.
Right.
And they deserve all the time that you have to. And those are people that, okay, like how many times I've heard, I don't like it still, but now the way you explain to me how it works, I have more information. I'm not going to be against it.
Yes, absolutely. I'm not. That is so well said. And I was hoping that you would be able to kind of condense my ramblings into something like that, and you just did. So thank you. But yeah, you're perfect, man. It's the people that are engaged and they're interested all the time in the world for. Absolutely. But yeah, if you lead aggressively, like you said, I'm going to kill your kids, right? You think so? That's not going to end well for you, pal. You know, I don't have, it's different. It's changed. And I think that the young guys that are coming up now in this, they have even more of an uphill battle than the old guard did, because it's going to get, the fight's going to get nastier and nastier and nastier.
I mean, that's the refreshing thing, though. You know, you're asking how old I am. I just turned 40. Yep. And like, when I show up at a hunting camp, I'm the old dog, you know, like I'm the oldest guy, especially in the industry when, most of these kids that are filming or guiding are 25, 26.
Yes.
And I'm seeing them, like I hate the term social media influencer, but if I can influence guys that age that are going to stay, that are going to be hunting every day, that are the people that are putting out the content, that are the people that are going to be constantly in the battle. If I can influence them that way, then fine, I'm a social media influencer. Cool.
There you go.
And I'm seeing these guys get it.
Yeah, no, that's absolutely right. Because I think about the crew that I hunt with, and I've got the guys here in the office, but we're roughly all the same age. But then there's a whole other subset of guys out there that are running around, and they're young. I mean, these guys are in their late 20s, maybe early 30s, but they're young. And I'm looking at them like, wow, you're like a kid. And then it dawns on me like, yeah, it wasn't that long ago I was that kid. Yeah. And guys my dad's age were the old dogs like you and me. Mm-hmm. And they were the ones doing the influencing. It's just a different form of passing on tradition.
Yeah.
It's funny that sometimes it's easy to demonize social media or whatever, but when it comes right down to it, it's passing on a hunting tradition. And if we do it the right way, man, it's going to be solid. And I think the future of hunting personally is in really good hands.
Well, there was a woman that was bashing on me one time saying, like, how sick and demented are you that you take a picture with a dead animal? And I found a picture I took in what was that? I think it was in New Mexico, but it was this really cool place off the beaten path that had a bunch of cave art or paintings. I just showed her that. I'm like, we've been doing this for a while,
Yeah, this isn't something new. Right. Oh no, that is awesome. Oh yeah. So with your videography and your different channels, what all do you have going on, man? So people that may not have heard about you, how can they find you? What's some of the stuff you've got out there?
Everything's under Ryan Off the Grid. Instagram, Ryan Off the Grid, Facebook and YouTube channel, same. That's where I'm putting out all my content. And I've got some other projects I'll be working with other companies and stuff, but the main things that I do is film the duck hunts or film the bear hunts for the vets. And it's kind of been cool to be able to, behind the scenes, I'm setting up the funding, I'm setting up the outfitter, I'm setting up the lodging, the food, and finding the vet that fits the criteria. But when I get to the hunt, I film it and act as host. Even though the lodge or the outfitter is hosting, I'm host from a video standpoint. And I mean, that's how I put stuff out. It's been kind of cool to be able to have command and control of everything. From start to finish, like I answer to one person and she's downstairs.
It's that can be, not can't be, it is. I've always found that, maybe it's a cocky, arrogant thing, but I've always found that the hunts that seem to go the best are the ones with the least moving parts.
Yeah.
You got one person or a very small group of individuals in control of everything. And man, it seems like the bigger it gets, we did a hunt this winter, tried to film a hunt this winter, and there was a lot of moving parts, and I wasn't able to have control of the things that I wanted to have control of. And man, it didn't go very well. Yeah. I'm like, well, I don't know if we've got how much content we're going to be able to salvage out of that, but
I filmed I filmed it with a thermal, and then I had another guy with a regular camera, but we did hog dogging in Texas. But that's at night. The thermal made everything awesome because I mean it's chaos. It's organized chaos until the hog gets dispatched, so to say. But in January, February timeframe, they do it in Florida in the day. And you're running through, and actually we were down there last January. We did it a couple times in between duck hunts because it's not too hot where the dogs aren't getting run ragged.
Okay.
But trying to line something up to go back down there and film that in the daytime, so I don't need the thermal. I mean, I filmed it with my cell phone last time because it was kind of impromptu.
Right.
But that also brings up challenges of how much do you show? Like you're saying you don't pander. But if you're stabbing a hog to death, that's got a pit bull in its ear and it's squealing and there's blood and there's chaos. You know, you can have that conversation in post with people that are inquisitive saying, you know, you shoot a hog with a 30-06, it's going to take that little boy a while to die. If you stab it, it is 6 seconds and they are gone. But the optics on it are
yes.
Filming it is a challenge to put it in the best light, to explain in the best light without giving full on ammunition to the opposition.
Right. No, you hit that on the head, man. The optics of the thing are like, oh, wow. Okay.
I know, hunters know, but that's going to get out, you know, like people are doing it all over the place. And I'm surprised it hasn't got on the radars yet of people. Well, I mean, I hope people that are filming it are putting it, you know, that you cut when you need to cut.
Yes. I think the other thing that the hog guys have done a really good job with is branding what they do. You know, hogs are, I shouldn't say everybody, that's too broad of a term, but if you know anything about hogs in the United States, they're a problem. They're a feral animal that is a problem, and they're exploding populations all over places that they don't belong. They destroy all kinds of property, and so the hunting at them at any means necessary is a valuable management tool.
Yeah,
and we get that. You know, we understand that. Man, those guys have done a really good job of saying, yeah, we're eradicating these things because look at the damage that they're doing.
Well, a lot of people don't even realize they kill fawns.
Right.
They eat fawns.
They eat anything, you know.
Right.
And
they'll eat another wounded hog. They'll eat anything.
Yes. Yeah. And I don't think if you don't swim in those circles and you don't live down there or in areas where they are, you don't get that. And so I think it's easy for guys that are like, all they do is maybe duck hunt, upland hunt, shoot, you know, hunt pheasants, turkeys, do some deer hunting. They look at that and go, man, I don't know about that. And it's like, well, you got to understand what the bigger picture, what's going on here.
I mean, a lot of hunters that don't live in those areas that, you know, just hunt their back 40 aren't exposed to what's really going on.
Right.
You'll get blowback. I've got blowback from hunters on snow goose season. They're like, you didn't have to kill 200 of them. I was like, we would have killed 5 if we could. You know,
exactly.
I mean, it's easier to have a conversation with another hunter about it. You can show them the effects on the, on the tundra. And I mean, look, avian flu went through this year.
Exactly.
Where, you know, which is nature's just correcting overpopulation. But that as the birds are flying through, they're giving that to the chickens, they're giving that to everything else.
Yeah, I don't know about you, but we went from, you know, I don't keep chickens in my yard. I live in town. I could, but I got enough going on with 3 kids and 2 labs, and you know, it's like I don't need a bunch of chickens too. So, but we went from having, you know, going to the store buying eggs or getting them from so and so down the street that's got chickens to there's no eggs, there's no chickens. Now there's a giant egg producing facility north of us in Montana. It's a Hooterite facility, and they had put down all their birds.
Yeah.
And I mean hundreds of thousands of chickens, which equates to millions of eggs over a period of time, pretty soon can't buy eggs in the store, and who knows where that avian flu started, but having a couple million snow geese over objective probably doesn't help.
Right.
We don't live in a perfect utopia anymore, and if we don't exercise stewardship and management, that bus is gonna go off the wheels in the ditch real fast. Whether it's snow geese or whether it's bears or whether it's predators. That bear story, I wanted to tell you that. So we're right in the throes of spring bear season out here. And one of the guys in the office, Dan Picard, who does our Beyond the Grid series, went out bear hunting last night. He got a hot tip on a spot, and he had a buddy that was sitting a bait, and he was spotting and stalking on a hillside above this area, and he hears a gunshot, and then he hears a few minutes later, he hears, like pop, pop, pop. Pretty soon his phone's ringing. He's like, dude, his buddy's like, get down here now. I need your help. Well, he had a rut fest on his bait site, and he shot one of the boars, and the other boar wouldn't leave him alone. And he was like aggressive and coming after the guy, and he was trying to deter it by shooting over it with his pistol. And he said he could hear the shots in real time on the phone, and then off in the distance, pop, pop, pop. And of course, he's 3/4 of a mile away. There's nothing he could do to help. He's bow hunting this hillside, and with his while this war's going on down in the timber, and he's like, whatever. And it worked out okay. Nobody got hurt, and it was. But yeah, that's getting back to the realities of hunting. It never, whether it's a turkey not doing what you want it to do or a bear doing that, you never know. And we have a tendency in Wyoming to go, oh, they're just black bears, because where we live, there's a lot bigger, browner threat out there. But it just goes to show you, they're wild animals, man. They do crazy stuff.
I've only gone nose to nose with a grizz one time, and it was pucker factor was high.
Oh yeah.
I was taking photos at Glacier National Park, and there's a place called Iceberg Lake, and it's quite the haul up, and I only have limited time to go get pictures, so like I'm hauling ass, and I passed this group of people, and there's probably 10 people in this group. They're together, and I've got like a 4-foot long telephoto lens around my neck, handgun, Glock 10, and then bear spray, and I come around this bend. And I'm probably 50 yards from, it was a yearling, but still, like, a yearling will kill you. And I was like, well, what do I do now? And I never pulled my camera up. I'm more worried about this bear. I need him to know that I'm here. Right. And he never postured on me. So I never pulled out a handgun or bear spray, but like, he's right there, and then this group of people come around and they're got their cameras out and shit. And I was like, are you people for real? Like,
we see it in Yellowstone all the time, because Yellowstone is literally in our backyard. And it's like, oh my gosh, are you people for real? Yeah, they had no qualms. They thought they were safe. And it was like, if this bear decides he's pissed off, we're in some trouble. And this dude says to me, and he was just shy of obese, but he says, well, you got a gun, we felt safe. And I was like, look, bro, I would have shot your fat ass in the kneecap. Like, I'm not here to protect you. I don't have to run faster than the bear, just you. Right. Oh man, that's hilarious. Yeah, the grizzly thing it's interesting. I picked up a new pup last year from Southern Oak Kennels down in Mississippi, and drove down there, picked it up, did the whole thing, and got talking to the guy that had whelped the puppy, Corey Wages with SOK Tanglefoot, and I got talking about, this is, he's a duck dog, but he'll pull some upland duty. He'll be hunting pheasants and chuckers and do a little bit of everything, right? And then in September and October, he'll pull bear duty. And these guys are from Mississippi. It's like, what are you talking about? Bear duty. And I'm like, well, yeah, he'll go elk hunting with me and deer hunting with me in grizzly country, and he's my sentinel. Well, what is that? Well, what does that entail? Is he like fighting the bears? And I'm like, no. He just barks and makes noise when he smells one or hears one. He's an extra set of eyes, basically. I use my labs for that all the time. And there's been 2 instances. One where my old dog Mackinac alerted me to a bear's presence that we ended up going nose to nose with later in the afternoon. But we were like, okay, there's a bear here somewhere. To the couple of years later, he literally, middle of the night, we're elbows deep in this bull elk, bonfire going, trying to get it all broke down and taken care of. And my dog just goes off. And there's no doubt in my mind that if that dog wouldn't have been there barking and growling, that bear we probably would have had an issue with that bear.
Yeah.
I don't know if he'd have been super aggressive, but he probably would have tried to push us off that carcass.
That's his now.
Exactly. But with the dog there, it was kind of like, so I was joking with him, like, yeah, they go from, fetching ducks and geese and flushing roosters to chasing grizzly bears, my labs live an interesting life out here.
I love it.
Oh, well, do you have dogs? You get into that at all?
Yeah, I've got yellow lab. He is turning 12. So he's gray in the face. So I've got 2 birds left for the North American Grand Slam.
Okay.
I need a fulvus down in Florida, and then I've been saving. And Patrick, the guy that got me into filming it initially, he said that's going to be really embarrassing when you have to target just a red-breasted merganser. I've been saving it in the hopes that he's still around. He doesn't get to hunt as much anymore because I'm always, running camera, running a dog at the same time is tough.
Oh, yeah.
I've done it, but it's not a fun day for me.
I didn't even try with my young dog last year. I didn't even take him. I took him one time, but otherwise, yeah, it's like I'm running a hunt, running a camera, and running a dog. No,
yep, that's too much.
I'm gonna make bad habits in that dog if I'm not careful.
Mm-hmm. So, we've got a river that flows through town here and flows into the Bay of Green Bay, and it holds a lot of divers late season. And last year, my dog Raji started struggling on the boggy stuff. He marked a bird and took off out of the boat and went into it's a cattail marsh, and he went in after it, and then he come back out, and I'm like, I know he saw where that bird landed, and he's never quit. And he comes back out, and I'm like, get back in there. And I stood up on the gunnel, and I was watching, and he was just struggling, and it was tough to watch, like it joints wise.
Yeah.
And this little boy, he knows that I want him back in there, so he's just traveling the muskrat runs because he didn't have to walk on the bog and just come in. Finally, I'm like, get up here. You're like, but I think open water on the river here, he'd be all right. Yeah. So hopefully, that can be my last bird of the slam and his last bird. I'd hang it up for him after that. We can retire.
That'd be cool, man. That'd be really, really cool.
On top of that,
we get a ton of mergansers out here on the rivers. If you get in a bind and you want to make a road trip in like January,
we could do that.
Come on out. You can shoot all the divers you want.
But the guy Ryan Boy that I was in the boat with that first year of the Veterans Duck Hunt, so he passed away the summer before I went after my king eiders, and that's when I kind of realized that like this is within reach. Like I could probably pull this off, because I was like, okay, whatever, I want to shoot all kinds of different species, but I never thought about completing the slam until I held that king eider. And then I got pretty emotional when I pick up this king, and I thought of him, like I'm here because this guy opened up duck hunting into my life, and he's gone, and that's a huge influence and a huge loss to me. But I've got a shell with his ashes in it. So as soon as we, I've got the faultless. My dog gets his last retrieve. I'm putting that shell in, and I'm gonna wait until like something stupid like a hen mallard flies by, and I'm gonna miss on purpose so I can blame it on him one more time.
Yeah. I love it, man. Oh, I love it. We waterfowlers are a unique bunch when it comes to stuff like that. We have a tendency to be very sentimental, whether it's dogs or past hunting buddies, even stupid old equipment that we hang on to too long, it seems like. Man, you talk about going for that slam and what it means. I have not done that. That's something that just career-wise, it hasn't been. I probably haven't made it a priority, but because I haven't made it a priority, I haven't, done a lot of that stuff. So when I talk to guys like you that have done it, I'm like, yeah, I need to go do the king eater thing, or I need to go do the emperor goose. You've obviously got an emperor.
No, emperor's not included in the 41.
Oh, it's not. I got the sheet right there. How did I not see that?
They because of the draw. I mean,
yeah.
So like 5 non-residents a year get an emperor tag.
Mm-hmm. I actually had a gal on the podcast. The only lady that's been on the podcast, Sarah Hetty. She went with Hugh Clark, and he up in Alaska. He helped facilitate that. Yeah. He's a good dude.
He might be coming to our Horicon hunt that duck hunt here in Wisconsin that I started with.
Really?
Yeah, he said he doesn't want to hunt. He just wants to hang out. And and he that too. So I was like, come on down. I'm like, I'm gonna put his butt in the boat though. Like he's not coming from Alaska and not hunting.
Exactly. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, he and I kind of ships in the night last year. He was just north of me up here hunting ducks, and we wanted to do a podcast in person, and it didn't work out. But I told him, I'm like, dude, the next time you get to Montana, you call, let me know, and we'll hook up. I'll either go up there or you can come down here, or whatever, man. Because I gotta do something in person with him. He's a good dude.
Well, it's crazy, duck hunting specifically, or waterfowl hunting in general. Like I don't want to call it the elite, because that's the wrong word. Because I'm just lucky. Like I've had opportunities, but I also say that luck is the crossroads of preparation and opportunity. So like I'm given these opportunities, like even to go shoot that king eater. Patrick had linked me up with a guy who was a rival guide in Michigan, but had started his own outfit, and Pat ended up going to be one of his captains. And it was his first year, and he needed media. Like, well, here I am. Hunting king eaters and harlequins in the middle of Bering Sea. I got lucky that happened, and I mean, you just start crossing paths with people that are out there grinding, doing it. Like like me and Pat came into the harbor, and there's a guy that used to be in our snow goose camp, like with a different guide, and you just start seeing people like it. I missed Ramsey Russell by 3 minutes at the hotel in Johannesburg. Like we both knew each other were there.
Right.
I mean, and so these guys were at a different table. They're like, well, "What are you doing here?" Because I was the only person by myself, and I was like, trying to get home because my wife's mad. I was here for 3 weeks, in Africa. And they're like, "You never guessed who was here." And I was like, "Ramsey Russell." And they're like, "How do you know?" I was like, "I just texted them."
That's so funny. That is so funny. Yeah, well, he is a character, man. He was through this way and hunted with us last November, and we had a ball. We had an absolute ball, and just a super, super good dude. I love, he's another one that talks about what you're just talking about how we're all connected by this thing called waterfowl, and we've all got our different stories and different things. And it's all those stories that kind of define us. And I love how Ramsey keys in and helps people tell that story. I
absolutely
interviewed a couple of other people, Dale Bordelon. Ramsey was like, "Dude, you got to talk to Dale." One of the most interesting dudes that I've ever talked to about hunting or anything in life, period. Just that man, he's like from a time gone by, first of all. And are you familiar with him? Yeah, just wow, super interesting cat, man. I just really enjoyed his spending, I think we talked for a little over an hour, and it was like Wow, that's a different perspective. That's a different thing. But yeah, just we're all connected by those things. And it's kind of wild too. You start going places and you're like, hey, I know that person. And you don't know them, but you know them from social media and all the stuff they do.
So I took my wife for my 40th birthday. We went to Nashville for NWTF, and she had never been to Nashville. We hadn't had just a vacation for us without kids since my son was born. And we're at the hotel bar, like well after the show shut down, and that's where business is done. And I was like, that's Alex Langbo. And she's like, do you know him? And I was like, yeah, but so I walk up and he's like, hey, Ryan, like, we've been friends on social media for so long.
I know.
Like, I feel like you know him. And my wife is just like, you've never ever met him in person? I was like, nope. But she's like, you just talked for an hour, like you know everything about each other. I'm like,
yep.
That's how it works.
You know what's stupid about that is I had Alex on the podcast pretty early on, and he literally lives like 30 minutes north of me. And I've still never met him. I've still never met him. It's like, how does that happen? You know, it's like every time I drive by his house, I'm like, I should just stop in.
Do it.
I should just stop in and say hi. But I'm always like going to Billings for an errand or something. And I'm like head down going, you know, and it's like, I just need to take the time and stop in and say hi, because you're exactly right. It's like, you just talked to that person for an hour and you've never met him before. Well, no, I never met him, but I know him. It's just wild.
Yeah.
And that's what's cool to me about social media.
Agreed.
It's, man, we're so much more connected now than we have ever been. You know, we went to did Hunt Expo in Salt Lake this year, went down, had a big booth down there, and same thing. All these people walking around, I'm like, yeah, I know that. I know that person. It's Ryan Bassam over there, you know, that's so-and-so, or, you know, whoever it might be. It's like, you know, all these people, but you never met them. And it's wild because they walk up like, hey, Todd, how's it going? I'm like, oh, hey, Ryan, how are you? You know, what is up with that?
Or even people that follow me that like I don't have I've never had a conversation with via messenger or anything, would walk up and my wife's like, this is terrible. And I'm like, what do you mean? She's like, your ego. And I'm like, no, that has nothing to do with it. I'm going to take the time. If a person follows me and wants to come up and talk to me, I learned from Bone Collector. The SHOT Show was the first expo I ever did. We did not have a TV show yet. We literally lied our way in, and we had passes and stuff. And the guy I was with was like a fanboy of Waddell's, and I think it was like Friday. The show is starting to pick up a little bit. And he's like, we got to go over there and talk to him. I'm like, bro, he's doing business right now.
Yeah, like, that's the thing about SHOT. That's a busy show for people.
And it's not open to the public. So, I mean, the people are there to get things done. And, so he's like, we got to go up. And I was like, look, if you catch them on Sunday when they're breaking down the booth, if you want to go like, do that, then do that. We happened to run into him on Sunday. And we walk up, and I will never forget how he handled this, because this is the way to do it. He looked down at both our name tapes and he said, Ryan, Jeremy, where are you guys from? What do you like to hunt? And I was like, man, like right away it registered. I'm like, that's the way you do it. So like, be cordial and meet these people. But my wife couldn't understand it. She's like, this is your fans. I'm like, no, these are people that are supporting what I'm doing. Yes. And I owe them the time of day.
Absolutely. And absolutely. It's funny how that works, because I think it's easy to get caught up in why I do this, or whether you can see guys that go and take it like, well, I'm up here, or almost poo-poo what they do, because they don't want to be held on they don't want to be put on a pedestal like, oh yeah, it's just a job, or I just do this. And it's like, would you say that if you were a school teacher? Because I taught school I've taught school for almost a decade. Yeah. I was a coach. I was a school teacher for almost a decade. And I never said that about what I did when I was teaching. Oh, it's just a job. Oh, I'm just a teacher. I never said that. I was always proud of what I did.
Yeah.
And I don't think there's any difference in what you and I are trying to do, whether it's, whether it's video content or social media, or we're advocates for, back to that advocacy thing. We're advocates for hunting, and we should be proud of that. And like you said, take the time to talk to people, because I don't know about you, but nothing turns me off faster than when somebody blows me off or is a jerk to me.
Well, big time. When you're talking about, though, like people that are downplaying what they do, I can see that in situations. Let's say I'm in a hunting camp to film, or I go down to Texas and subcontract a guide for a week, and you get guys in camp that want to toot their own horn, like, I've hunted this and I've shot Pope and Young that, and I've done this and I've done that. I don't even say a word until they get to the point where I start playing one downsmanship with them. It's so funny because it's like a close talker. If you get talked to closer to a close talker, throws them off. So like the guy will be like, "Oh, I shot a 208-inch whitetail last year," and I was like, "Oh, I shot a spiker, but I think I should have let him grow a little bit." If they don't know what to do, like they're like,
he had huge feet.
Who taught me that? It was another guy. He goes, "Yep. Anytime I've got a big-headed, corporate client in here, I one down them, and it just throws them off their game."
That is awesome. I'm going to use that. That is awesome. Yeah, and I didn't. I guess what I was getting at with that is getting to, you don't want to be seen as that person that's the one-upper. Where you're like, "Oh yeah, well, I got all I need left for my slams a red-breasted merganser." And I'm gonna, pickle it and put it on a charcuterie board and serve it with a fine Merlot, And it's like, hey, dude, it's a merganser. I'm just giving you shit, man. I'm not.
The dog's eating that one.
Oh man,
he probably won't even touch it.
Yeah, I don't know. I pasted one pretty good last year. It came ripping through, and we were just on a white hot tear on the mallards and just destroying them. It was awesome. And of course, you get your 5 mallards, you can kill one more bird out here, various different species, but it's mostly mallards. And this red breasty comes ripping through, and he's doing Mach 8 about 2 feet off the deck, And it was probably one of the best shots I've ever made in my life, because it was just like, throw the gun up, bang. It was completely instinctive, and it wasn't a cripple. He was stone dead.
Just dead.
Just dead. And guys were like, I got 2 reactions out of the blind. One was like, what the hell was that? And the other one was, wow, nice shot, bro. But, oh, goodness. Yeah, you don't want to be that one-upper guy, but at the same time, I do think, we should be proud of what we do. And because we are advocates.
Setting in context matters, and then how you're putting stuff out.
Yeah, that's absolutely right. Absolutely right. Wow, that is cool. Well, dude, I've probably kept you long enough. I've really enjoyed our time together, and I'm dead serious. If you want to come out and shoot mergansers, holler.
It might be in the cards.
Yeah, no, seriously, that was ended up, honestly, that's how we ended up hunting with Ramsey last fall. I asked him to be on a podcast. He was like, sure, as long as you come on mine. And it was like, okay. And the next thing you know, he calls, he's like, hey, I'm going to be through that way in November. You want to hunt together? You got a spot? And I'm thinking, dude, November, there's hardly any birds here in November. It's kind of like, yeah, okay. But yeah, same thing, man. The invitation's open. And if we ever get someplace, I would love to hook up and share a duck blind sometime. That'd be fun.
Be outstanding.
Cool, man. Well, thank you, sir. I really appreciate your time. And I will make sure that you've got links or whatever we've got so people can find your stuff on here. And If they've got an idea for a hunt for you, they've got a vet they know that they want to hook up with something, try to get them hooked up with you and see what we can make happen.
Yep.
Awesome. I appreciate it, Ryan.
Thanks for having me.
So I've got one more question for you. If you could only hunt one bird one way for the rest of your life, what's it going to be?
Ooh. You caught me off guard. I think it would be Old Squaw on a layout boat on Lake Michigan in some nasty chop.
Some rollers. Yeah, buddy. Yeah, buddy. It seems to me like when I was a kid, there weren't a lot of Old Squaw around. And now now you guys have lots.
We have more than the both seaboards. Speaking of Old Squaw, real quick, I was at the Brewer game Sunday with a Semper Fi Fund, which is a nonprofit for combat vets, combat wounded vets, disabled vets. They put together a suite, and I met this guy who got hit by an IED, and he's blind from it. Like, so I didn't know how blind. You know, some guys can see like periphery and he starts telling me he hunts, and I was like, awesome, man, what do you hunt? And he's like, I bow hunt with a crossbow. Somebody's got to be with me. He's got mobility issues as well. I mean, he got pretty jacked up, but he's got this high powered laser, and he puts that on the animal, and whoever's with them positions him, and all right, take the shot, and he's been successful. But he says, I want to shoot ducks. So I was like, no offense, but how blind are you? And he goes, I can't see anything. And I was like, all right.
No offense, but how blind are you?
Well, I mean,
no, it's a fair question. It's a fair question.
And Marines to Marines, like, nothing's offensive. So he said, well, I've been trap shooting and like they'll put me up there. He goes, my biggest concern is muzzle awareness. And I can see that being a huge issue. So like, I don't want to put him in a field hunt with coffin blinds and he's all over the place. But I'm sitting there and I'm thinking about it. And I was like, so how do you, like, have you hit clay pigeons? And he goes, oh yeah, like every once in a while. And we're laughing about that. Somebody will be behind him or next to him, and they'll position him, and then they'll say, okay, it's going to the left, and he swings, and they'll tell him when to pull the trigger. So I called Mike Keller, who's a Marine vet as well, and an Old Squaw guide on Lake Michigan here, told him about this, and he's like, dude, we're doing this. And both of us are like, I don't care if it takes 9 flaps of ammo. So I'm going to sit in a tandem layout boat with this guy.
Yeah. Yep.
And if we get bluebills, might do it upright too. But if we get Old Squaw that comes straight down the long line, I'll probably have him shoot a little bit early so I can correct it by the third shot.
Right.
But I told him, like, we're doing this.
You're just gonna guide him right in there with the water spray.
Just keep shooting until we knock one down.
And I think that's awesome. I could see. The other thing that you said about if you're in a situation where like puddle ducks or anything that works in from higher elevation, be hard because you can't see where he's hitting necessarily. But shooting stuff like out of a layout, you're going to be able to see where he's hitting.
Yeah,
when the shot hits the water.
We'll probably pull the choke out completely and just get a big spray going.
Go for it. Just go for it.
I'm stoked about it. Like that is my mission this late fall here.
Heck yeah, man! When do you guys start getting your divers in? Because I remember in the UP it'd be yeah. Okay. About the same time.
Halloween weekend is usually when it starts heating up.
Yeah. That was I usually ended up like bow hunting a little bit for deer that first part of November, and then by Thanksgiving, if I wasn't on Little Bait and Ock, I was, not able to hunt physically. It was like, that's when the birds were just thick in there, it seemed like. So that's similar time frame. That's not that far either.
I have this vision in my head. I have a vets event that I actually have another spot that I'm going to put this guy in. But I mean, if we have to go multiple weekends to make it happen, we'll do it. But I just have this like vision in my head of all the other guys in the boat, like when he knocks one down, just losing their minds.
Oh, absolutely! It'll be awesome, dude. Yeah. You've got to make sure that you've got like somebody else next to you or behind you in another boat filming that somehow.
Yeah.
Maybe put a shot cam or a tacticam on that shotgun. Just, dude. I mean, I'd pay admission to see that video. That would be awesome.
He's like the coolest, happy-go-lucky guy. Like I really hit it off with him. And like he makes fun of himself,
Yeah.
I'm excited about this one. It would probably be like the biggest hunt of the year for me if we can make it happen.
That's awesome, man. Good for you for doing that. That is super cool. And if there's ever a time where we can help out with that, you know, or if we can host something out here, you want to do something out west or with veterans, let me know. I'd be totally down for that. I've got a good friend out here who's an awesome outfitter in this area, and I know he would be totally down to help out with anything veteran related, and so would I. So keep me in mind for that, man. Any way I can help, I'd love to.
Awesome.
Cool. I'll do it. I'll let you go. I've been pestering you long enough, but I appreciate the time and the conversation.
Awesome. Thank you.
All right.